Hey, collective. Today I wanted to retell my story a bit uh more grounded and as well break down what I learned through the journey because a lot of people who did hear the story when I first gave it out, it was like rushed. I wasn't as comfortable telling it. So we're gonna bring it back and just rerun it. Um, but we'll start with I'll start with the adoption with my we'll start to start. So I was adopted at like 4 months old, and it was because my mom, uh, my birth mother, was a drug addict, and was heavily on coke and meth at the time, and my dad was a pimp that was pimping her out. And I was adopted because they got in an argument one day, and I had two other sisters, so it was me and then them two. I don't know who they are either, but we'll get to that later. But my mom and I got in an argument, and my dad ended up stabbing my mom like 72 times in the chest. It was on a police report that I have. I'm not gonna like show it or anything, but it's a police report that I have. And she got stabbed 72 times in the chest. And then my dad slit his throat. This is like really graphic. I should probably put that in the title somewhere. But my dad, did that. And they both passed out from blood loss. But my mom regained consciousness, went to the next door neighbors, called the cops. Everything happened. When the cops got there, he was waking up. They took him to the hospital and did shit. Everyone got split separated. But the people that were adopting me were also in the state of Ohio. That's where I was born. Anyway, they were there in Ohio because they were foster parents, and I was put on them for a case. And me and my sisters, we were all split up and sent to different organizations. We were all sent to different agencies. We don't even know each other at all. I have one photo of them, but it's just of them, and I'm not included. So I don't really know. I was like excluded completely from that place. But I was adopted. I was put into care at 4 months old. Really, I was like adopted around like a few months after. But no one wanted to adopt me, so they just ended up adopting me straight from the agency. And after they did that, they quit. They moved around a bit. I don't remember like where all we went, but we stopped when they stopped moving around. They settled down in Kentucky, which is where I'm at right now. And Um, from early age, I was always like into like mystical things. I went through a lot of paranormal activities. Of course, just being an Appalachian, when you're raised there, you're bound to see some shit. Like it's just how it is. Um, but I've always been attracted to nature. Um, even on my adoption paper, like on the whole like transcripts of everything, yeah, they noted down that I always smiled at people. Like I had a really interesting way of looking at the world just from youth. Like always, I've always seen reality the way it is, the way I see it. Like there has not been a single change. I'm more authentic than most of these like teachers that you see now because I was born with this stuff like ingrained in me. I've never seen the life as like a horrible thing, despite going through a lot of shit. But while growing up, I didn't know this, but I was adopted by Masons. So I was under a lot of magic. My sisters, mainly my sisters, because well, one of them I should say. I'm not gonna name drop them. I don't really give a fuck. They watch the channel. They stalk me, so I'm not gonna name drop them. They know who they are though. Um, but yeah, they did a lot of mirror magic on me growing up, um, as well as me going through a lot of sexual assault, not only from my cousin, but when I want to say around 4, um, I had my first sexual assault encounter. I'll leave it like that. And I went off and I told someone after it happened, because I was in elementary school, the person that did it was in middle school, and I told someone that he knew, and they didn't believe me, so they didn't tell anyone. But I always told my mom about it. But since it was I should back up a little bit. But my mom worked at a church, and I would used to go to that church as well with her just to like hang out with my mom because my dad never stayed home. He was always out doing things. He was always at AMVETS. He was a veteran, so he always went to AMVETS and hung out with them. So he was never really home. It was always just me and my mom. But after that happened, my mom got fired shortly after I reported that um, from the church, and she took care of like the daycare. She was in charge of like helping and changing babies, diapers, and stuff, and taking care of the children there. But she lost her job shortly after that, blew up. Um, and then at 7 years old, I had like my I guess my I could say my first, but it was technically second near death experience. My first one was when that whole knives thing was going on. I forgot to mention me and the other three sisters were flung around the house and we were all like not conscious when everyone arrived. Like it was not good. Um yeah, I don't want to describe the whole scene because there's not a need to. But it was not good. But around 7, I cracked my forehead open in the in the silliest of ways. It was like one of those plastic basketball goals, like the shiny ones. And I was leaning back on it because it had like water in the base, and I was leaning back on it. And it didn't fall back. It didn't fall over. So I said, and my dad was in the garage at the time, and it was like all in visual placement, so it was fine. Fine, quote unquote. But I was like, "Hey, Dad, look at this," and he said, "Not now. I'm busy." And I leaned back, and when I did, I smacked my head on the concrete and blacked out. Um, I was dead for like a week, basically. Not like unresponsive. I died and I became unresponsive. I was in like a week long coma. Um, and I just remember like blacking out, waking up a lot on the way to the hospital. But during the whole death and coma era, I I seen what I would describe as a script of life. And it literally had, and it's ingrained in my head. I will never not see it. Um, but it was an entire script of everything that was happening. Um, some people believe Metatron's the one is in charge of it, but I seen it firsthand, and it is an infinite script. And everything, every heartbeat, every like smaller than nanosecond, everything that's happening and occurring, and will occur and has occurred is on that, is being constantly wrenched through and written. And things in the past are in like a very dulled, bold gold. Everything that's currently happening is in a gold, shimmery, you know, text. And then anything in the future, it was this like silverish color. But I ended up seeing that for a while, and I distinctly remember two things. And it was I bel I don't know if I was on the moon, but I departed from the moon when I came back into my body. I just remember being around I think it was the Council of Saturn. I really do. Because it was 13 hooded figures and they were standing around me looking at me, and it wasn't any voices being said. It was all just telepathic, and it was just vibrations and the feeling. And I just it's hard to explain. But if I could but if I'm going to explain it the best way I can, I was there, and what they did basically was read me the script of what was happening externally, what was happening internally, what was going to happen, and what had happened. And they said, You have a choice. You can either leave and just stay here, or you can go back." And I chose to go back. And I remember it was like a dream, because when you die, it's just a dream. You just wake up, like genuinely. but I distinctly remember I was on the moon and I departed from this ship from the moon to Earth and woke up like nothing ever happened. And I was good. And everyone at the school knew I died, and it was weird. No one talked to me for like a week when I returned to school, and I had a bandage on my forehead. I still even have the dent on my forehead too. It fucked up my skull bad, but and it was funnily enough right on my third eye, which there's a lot to talk about with that. But anyway, I was like 7 at the time, and after that, after like the week subsided, I was relentlessly bullied and harassed, and no one really gave a fuck. I was called the N word from kindergarten, actually, is when it first started, but I was called racial slurs my entire life. I was put down, I was bullied, I was abused. I had teachers accusing me of locking kids in the bathroom. It was awful. Like I was belittled to the smallest depths at such a young age. And my sister worked at the school, one of them, because I had two of them in the adopted family. And she didn't do anything about it. She just kind of let it happen. And she knew what was going on. And my mom had resentment, had like anger for that because of her. She never forgot about it because she could have done something, especially since she worked there, and she just didn't do a single thing. It was awful. Um, but before we get too much into depth of that, at 7 as well, later that year we went to Florida, and I don't remember how or why, but I was playing some mobile MMO game on my phone because I love to play those things as a child. Those are my favorite games. And I was playing it, and someone in the game chat was talking about a third eye. Mind you, this is like 2017, 2007, sorry. It's like 2006, 2007, around this time. And someone was just talking about the third eye, and I was like, and people were like talking dog shit, like, oh, that's just not real, blah 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 blah. And I was like, what's the third eye? And that person said, look it up on YouTube. And I was like, okay, cool, whatever. So I did, and I did a full-on third eye activation meditation at 7. And that's when life really clicked in. Um, After that is when the relentless abuse really kicked in. That was when I was really starting to get blamed for shit. Um, the the biggest one was in fourth grade. I'll never forget it because it literally was so awful. The teacher got fired for it, but some girl got like, and I was okay. So before I get too deep into it, I was the only black kid in my school. There were Hispanics. I was the only black one in the grade, and the the principal came in the room because a little girl was locked in the boys' bathroom. And I never used the school's bathroom. I never used the school bathroom. My whole entire like element from third after third grade, I stopped using the bathroom because some kid would not stop throwing up every time I'd go into the bathroom, and it like grossed me out, so I just stopped going. I just didn't care about it. But did not use the school bathroom at all, after that. And he came in, and the little girl was there, and he was like, I need everyone to put their head down. This is important. Like, didn't really explain what was going on. Um, and then she pointed at me. I didn't, obviously no one knew, but when we put our heads up, the principal then explained she was locked in the boys' bathroom. We're just trying to figure out who did it. And live I almost said his name, but the principal said for me to get up because I was pointing it out, right? And I said, that wasn't me. I didn't do that. And the teacher looked me dead in the eyes and said, shut the fuck up, N-word. We all know you did it. And everyone was just like looking at me because everyone in the class knew I didn't do it because in my school, the way it was is you stuck with your class the entire day. Everyone knew I didn't go to the bathroom. And it was like in fourth grade. So it's like, what the fuck what can we do? We're fourth graders, we didn't know. It was just rude. And the principal like said, "Just come with me. I'll talk to you about it personally." And I was crying because I was like I didn't do anything, and I was like being belittled for it, and it was awful. My inner child has healed from it, but it's just one of those things that even thinking about it now is just like what the fuck. I'll never have that energy leave. Like it's always like what the fuck is wrong with these people? And when I went to the principal's office, he was like, "Look, I know you didn't do it, but I need to talk to you because of the way the teacher responded about this." And I was like, "Okay." And he was like, "You're not in trouble." And he was like, "I need you to understand that there are other kids with your skin tone here. And and, you know, that gets really confusing." And the child picked out. So I wasn't even mad at anyone. I was more if I was mad at anyone, it was the teacher. I wasn't necessarily mad at the child because it's like, I mean, that makes sense. I'm brown and there's other brown people here too. And they're not the same race, but it's the same complexion. So it's of course there's confusion. And I also took off my glasses. I had glasses at the time and I took them off to put my head down. So there's a lot of factors that led up to it. But Lively said, "I'm pretty certain it wasn't you because you're a good kid and I don't see you doing that." And I said, "I didn't even use the bathroom all day. You can ask anyone in there in the class." And he said, "Okay." So he went back and reviewed the footage and he's seen that no, it wasn't me. Obviously, no shit, Sherlock. He didn't even believe it was me in the first place. And mainly, I feel like it was because the way the teacher responded. Because at that point, like that doesn't add anything valuable. It just adds how that person feels. Their true character was exposed as being a racist asswipe. Just got to be honest with it, truly. Bless her soul. I hope she's doing well, but Jesus Christ, like that, I hope that she really learned a lesson from that because she lost her entire career for it. Um, but they found out who did it, and it was the only other two. Like there were four Hispanics, but it was two of them that did it. Um, but oddly enough, I was the first class to walk into that had a brown kid in it. So it was a lot of pressure on everyone basically. And that news spread around school real quick. And that it made, I'm going to talk about this because this is important too, because it shows a lot of the family dynamic I grew up in. My mom heard about that before my sister told her. And my sister never told her anything until she asked about it. Um, And she was like, "Yeah, that happened, but it's like whatever." She never really did anything to help. So at that point, my mom just did not. And the sister I'm talking about was also adopted. So my mom stopped talking to her completely. She literally cut her out of her life. Um, as well as that sister threatened to beat her with the metal belt. Around the same day, around the same week, I should say, because I had sensory issues because of sound and touch because of what I went through. So I didn't like loud music, and I kept telling my sister's son to turn down. I think that's my uncle, technically. I mean, my nephew, because I'm their uncle. Excuse me. I was telling my nephew to turn it down. He was like fucking in middle school, a little arrogant little thing. You know how we are in middle school. Um, but he kept turning it up louder and louder with my sister in the car when I was telling them to stop. So I came home and I said, "I'm not going to ride home with her no more." And she goes, "Why?" And I said, wouldn't turn down the fucking music. I didn't say fucking. I didn't say fucking. Imagine. No. And I was like, "He's not turning down the music when I'm telling him to." And she said, "Sit here." So I sat, I wasn't in trouble. I sat there in the living room and she said, she called my sister and said, "Get your ass up here now." And shit hit the fan. My dad came home. My dad was a school bus driver as well. So like whenever he came home, he'd stay home for like 2 hours and then he would go to AMVETS. They had bingo and other things that he would do. So he worked there, but he would stay home for like a few hours. Um, and when my sister came up, my mom and was like, "Listen, you gotta treat him with more respect. Like he has sensory issues. Leave him alone." And she was like, I can't help it. He was just turning up the radio. And it's like, well, listen, you could have turned it off. Like, you had options to do something and you just chose not to. And she got mad. And my mom was on oxygen. She had a cannula, 24/7. And she was like, you don't need to be making me mad because I'm on oxygen. You just need to listen to what I'm telling you. I'm your fucking mother. Um, and that like apparently made my sister mad, and she got there was this belt with metal bumps that I used to get beat with, and where I'm gonna talk about that at a later point. Um, but um, she picked that up out of the basket that I was in, and she said, "Do you want me to beat you with this?" My sister said that to my mom. And my mom stood up and took her cannula and, wrapped it around like this and said, "Do you want me to, do that to you?" So I was raised in a very hostile environment where I really wasn't shown a lot of love. And I didn't understand what was going on. I mean, honestly, I was kind of unfazed. If the truth of the matter is, I was sitting there watching TV while this was going down, and my dad said, "You need to go to your room." And I was like, "But I'm watching TV." I was completely desensitized to violence, to arguments, to abuse, to things of that nature. I was desensitized completely. Like I felt like that was what life was, and I didn't necessarily see it as a bad thing because, I never seen anything really as like a bad thing. I just seen it as it was. And I went back to my room. Someone got hit. I don't know who got hit. I heard it. I kind of just black zoned it out and went to bed because I just was not going to deal with it. And my sister and mom did not talk for 15 years after that. I was like 17, 18. I was actually, I want to say 15. No, 15, 16 around the first time they started talking again. It was over a decade for sure that they didn't talk because when my brother died, the family got together. But I don't talk much about my brother. He wasn't really in my life. He had his own things going. Um, I don't really know. But with that belt, um, so I don't know what happened. It was something. It was weird because at one point in my life, me and my dad got really along together, and then out of nowhere, and the family wants to say it happened because I became a teenager, but this happened when I was like 8 and 9. Something switched, and my dad and I just stopped getting along, and me and my mom started getting along more. So there was some sort of intervention going on. I think it was literally my sisters because they didn't appreciate anything that I could. They didn't like me. Just point blank center. They never did like me. Um, no matter what they say, I know that they didn't. And it's like their flesh didn't like me, their spirit didn't like me, I should say. Their soul loves me because their soul came down to be with me during that time, but they had a spirit of distaste and hate for me. And they still kind of do. And I mean, I witnessed it fly off of them the last time I seen them because I fucking exercised the fuck out of both of them without them even knowing. But anyway, we'll talk about all that soon. Um, I Yeah, it was like me and my dad stopped getting along, and he just like it was like the classic like math homework. I didn't understand math. I had learning disability. Well, learning disabilities growing up. Fucking bullshit. I didn't have learning disabilities. I was just bullied and pressed on by racism for at a young age to where I didn't really want to exist. And it was depression, but it was also because I opened my third eye. I was able to see shit and know people. Like I seen through people at such a young age. It's impossible to like it was impossible to hide who they were, so they just had to pop out, and I had to deal with the worst of it. But um yeah, it was like a belt my mom used to wear. I don't know why they had it, and then like it was used on me. And one day my mom was just like, "You need to fucking quit using that. Like you just gotta stop hitting them. I don't. It was weird. Like this, it's just coming from the family I did to go into another one just to get beat physically. It was definitely some sort of like karma from like a past life that I had to pay, but it it taught me a lot about what dynamics were from a young age. I understood from a really young age that it doesn't matter what family member it is, they're not family. There is no such thing as a family. You make it yourself. The family that you're in, you're indoctrinated into. You have a document. You're indoctrinated. You literally signed. Your parents basically sell you off to the government by signing off birth certificates and shit. Like let's get down and real with it at some point. We'll talk more about that later, but that's really what was going on. Is I just learned at a young age that family wasn't really anything except for what you made it. Um, but around after elementary school and middle school hit, that's when everything really started to change. Puberty was going on, and with an already active third eye, it was interesting. And some people want to say, "Oh, you can't have that at that young age." No, you can, and I'm fucking living proof of it. You're gonna tell me my story's fake when I literally did it? Cool. I know I don't like exist technically, but you can't ignore like the vibrations that you're hearing. So let me just tell you that these people don't know what the fuck they're talking about, saying you can't activate certain chakras at a certain age. No, you can. You just have to know how to. You have to be what we call chosen to do so. Welcome to reality, you know. But that's why I speak so strongly on what I speak about because I've experienced it like firsthand. I don't read books. I don't fucking need to read books. I just meditate. I've died 3 times. I've seen the script 3 times. I've seen my angels, my ancestors, my fucking guardians 3 times, dude. I don't need your sacred studies. I already know it. In fact, I'm here to teach you all how to learn how to use these sacred studies. You know what I mean? Like I understand who I am. And my whole life story has just been around it because like at the age of 10, I got into spell work. And I did it backwards. And instead of being light first and then dark, I wasn't doing dark spells, but I was researching. I like to learn. So I learned how to do hexes, I learned how to do graveyard shit. I literally lived next to like a family cemetery. I went in the woods a lot. I did a lot of woodland shit. I had a hellhound at like 11 and 10. Um, I had this imaginary friend that kept stealing shit from the house. Like things were literally disappearing. It was interesting. My mom told me to kick him out because she knew what I was doing, and she said you have to tell him to leave. And I had like a whole ceremony where I like kicked him out. Like I literally had like I said, hey, you have to leave, and we pushed him out. He came back because I wasn't aware that egregores could come back, so I didn't know. But he came back and started doing shit. And my mom looked at me and I was like, I don't know why he came back, so we got rid of him again. Um, uh, but what was I gonna say? Yeah, middle school. Yeah, middle school was really where I was like getting into like magic and shit. And it wasn't like the sync spells that you would do in it like a child. I was like looking up herbs. And also around this time, I had Anubis come to me. Middle school, I became suicidal. Um, because I, oh my God, dude. Middle school, man. No, I have deep trauma with middle school. Let me tell you, I've healed from a lot of it, but you're not gonna believe I'm about to tell you about middle school, man. Middle school is fucked up. But the reason I became suicidal at that time is because I was really working with my heart chakra, and I was doing what I felt like I needed to do. I mean, I figured out who I was sexually. I mean, once you die, you kind of just know who you are at that point, and it's like you can't really hide, you can't really restrict that flow of energy. as well as just living a very mature life. My mom was in her 60s and my dad was also in his 60s, like late 60s when I was adopted. So I had to take care of my parents. I've always my first like getting over it thing was getting over death. I never had a fear of death. And especially it taught me just watching over elderly parents. Everyone in the family was worried about, oh my God, they can die at any moment. And I was just like, yeah, but it's fine. And I was ostracized for that a lot. Because I mean, I'm talking to NPCs and people who aren't conscious or even aware of that they have a subconscious that controls 95% of their life. So when you say death isn't anything, they'll fucking get mad and angry face and start cussing you out for bullshit reasons, just childish stuff. It's fine. We're all young and we all don't know things, so it's cool. But in middle school, um, I was bisexual in middle school. I knew who I was at that point. I did a lot of spell work. I went into band. That was when my music phase was really a thing. I became really enthralled with the piano. I forgot to mention this funny thing in like fifth grade. Uh, I had this girlfriend, and her mom was a piano teacher. And I got piano teacher lessons from her mom, and that was a really fun thing. So I did piano when I was young. I loved playing piano. Um, I was jazz. I loved jazz. I was a big Michael Jackson fan, like Prince, R&B, hip hop, jazz, like all the avenue. I was in it as a child. Such a soulful. None of the like media, like mainstream. It was all soulful. It's like I was all about the soul. I needed like that soul energy. I used to fall asleep to like classical music as a child. Like I was under the operation that where parents are like, "Oh my God, if you do all these things when the child is developing, they'll become smarter." I'm basically like a fucking government test subject if you really want to hook it down, because and I forgot to mention this. Uh, God, that was like in third, fourth ish. It was third grade. Yeah, because I was getting in trouble in third grade. I'm sorry for skipping around so much. I forgot all about this till now. But in third grade, I was sent to a testing facility. Don't know what it was for. It was not for ADHD. It was not for autism. I don't know what it was for. I just remember being in a blue room. I had Pokemon cards on me. I was talking to some kids, to like kids of the doctor that was there. I think it was like a psychic medium place, like facility, because I remember so much from it. It was like really weird, but it was this blue room, and they were testing me for stuff, and then I was in this like hospital-esque, like laying down on a chair, and I just remember someone like telling me that you're an empress, you're this high priestess empress, and you're here on a special mission. Like she was just telling me all sorts of shit. And I was like in third grade, not really understanding what she was saying, but kind of just allowing it to happen and agreeing with it. Um, and she was like, "You're here for something special, and you just need to be prepared." And she left, and then the other first doctor came back in, and I got like a scan on my brain and a bunch of other shit. Just a lot of experiments. I've gone through so much. Um, Testing and attacks and tests from government officials and family, Masonics, sisters, skull and bones, you fucking name it. I've been tossed in the mix of it. Um, but in going back to the third grade thing, I was doing a lot of channeled writing in third grade, and in fact, I got in trouble because we were supposed to be writing notes down for math class to take to fourth grade, and I didn't give a fuck about that shit. I mean, my third eye was already doing its thing. I had seen how bullshit everything was. I didn't care. So I was just what I deemed to be at first was doodling, but as I was doing it, I was hearing a voice in the back of my head, and I was like mimicking like the vibrations with my hand. on the paper. And a girl that was sitting next to me looked at me and said, "You're not even writing what's on the board." And I said, "It doesn't like I am though. Like I thought I was at least. I didn't know. I it was not what was on the board. I'll tell you that for sure. It was definitely like channeled writing that I kept. I don't remember what I did with it, but I kept it. And I got in trouble for that, and that was dog shit. But you know, did I write the notes down? No, because it was like it was up to you. So I just got ratted on for no reason. You know how kids are. But middle school, I was in band. I was doing percussion. I was xylophone. I was the only person doing xylophone in middle school, and I that was like really big on me because I was the best in middle school uh as like a sixth grader. I was the best xylophone marimba key player, better than the eighth graders. Like um there was a in seventh, well, yeah, it was in sixth grade, wasn't it? There was like a Christmas like band thing that we played. And the dude didn't even know, like we were switching parts because we both played keys, and he would play the chorus and I would play the main part because he didn't know the main part and I knew the chorus, but he needed to participate. And he didn't know the second chorus, so I had to fucking play the entire song basically. He played like 30 seconds and I played the whole two full fucking minutes of it. It didn't bother me, but I was obviously like I knew what I was supposed to do. And I'd come into class every day and I'd learn songs in a day. Like I had a piano at my house, so I would learn it on the piano, and it's the same notes, the same layout. You're just using mallets. So I would learn a song in a day, and then go to this band and I'd play it. I was in sixth grade knowing how to maneuver four mallets, playing whole songs. The song "You and Owen Was Her." If anyone has heard, I know a few of y'all have, but I used to play that all the way through on on marimbas with four sticks solo. It was beautiful. I used to do that. Um, dude, I did a lot. I played mono the fucking I forgot what it's called. I don't remember. I did a lot of shit, a lot of classical pieces on marimba. I was just in it to win it. But I also got in a lot of trouble because I hung out with two knuckleheads and they would always get in trouble and I would get wrapped in because I was like the leader. I had to go babysit them because I was in charge of percussion, the xylophones and the mallets, and they would always break the fucking mallets. And I was the one in trouble because I'm the only one that used the mallets, despite them breaking them and shit. But I loved doing band. I didn't like the competitions. But I always did good. My only issue is that I wouldn't play loud enough. It was just a little bit of self-consciousness, but I'd like that they would know I hit the right notes, but they said your xylophone player is doing good, but they need to play louder. So I'd always be told to play louder. And even doing practices, it was really funny because me and the band teacher, I loved her. We had a good relationship, and she knew that I wasn't like breaking mallets and shit. But unfortunately, she got breast cancer, and a new band teacher had to come in. But we would always like goof off with each other while practicing songs. I remember I loved her so much. We would be playing, and I would be playing moderately loud, right? And she would look at me and go louder, and I'd start smacking as hard as I could on the keys, and she would just smile. It was just so fun. But we had a new band teacher and I play xylophones, but they made someone else play xylophones too because, well, the two jerk offs in the corner weren't playing anything, and literally, one of the people had to play a trash can, and then at at uh at a concert that we were performing at, he was told to play the trash cans because he just couldn't play the instrument. I don't know how you can't. I mean that it's not that hard to just hit one note. But we had I will never forget this either because it really made it made everyone kind of happy. It was like a really big glow up moment. I call him a knucklehead because we used to be friends. But he struggled too. He struggled a lot too. But he he got told to play the gong one day, and every time we practiced this song, and it was beautiful because we perfected the song as a group. But he had one job, which was to hit the gong at the end of the song, and sometimes it wouldn't hit. Excuse me. How do I pause this? You can't pause it. Oh yeah, you can. Sorry about that. We're back. Anyway, he had one job, which was hit the gong, and every time we practiced, he would miss. he no, it was like funny because like he would, and he thought it was funny too. He would laugh his fucking ass off until the teacher yelled at him. But he would try. He had to hit the gong in the middle, right? That's how you hit the gong is in the middle. But sometime, for some reason, he would always hit it like off center, and it wouldn't make the right noise. And he would be in the right position. All he would have to do is that, and he would do that. But for some reason, it just the hand-eye coordination was not there. And during the concert, our most important concert, the actual final, the finale that we were doing, people were giving this man shit. Like, you better fucking hit the gong right. And I was like, just ignore him, dude. You're gonna fucking hit it right. Like, you're like, there's nothing wrong gonna happen. You're gonna do it. And he did. Literally, he hit the gong, and it was almost a little too loud, but it signified. We lost points because the flute section started to cheer at the end, though. So we lost like 20 points after that. So it's really funny that everyone that was given the one person shit that couldn't do it right ends up doing it right, but then the people talking shit are the ones that ruined it. Moral of the story, don't be an asswipe to people, right? Anywho, middle school was interesting. I did a lot of magic. I was really into My Little Pony at the time. That was just something like inner child healing that I had to go through. And as well, it was just like very interesting. I made a lot of friends online who were also in the community, and we would talk, hang out. That's where most of my friends came from, is online, because I was never around people that truly liked what I did. There was one kid, but he was like really shy about it and not open about it like I was. And he was like, I'm gonna have to like stick in and act like I don't like it around my friends, so my friends think it's cool. It was just kind of sad. So I've always been one to really just do what I wanted to do, but in middle school, I was extremely suicidal. Um, and I took this wasn't a near death experience. This was something different. I took an attempt on my life, and Anubis came to me and said, "You're not gonna fucking do this right now." And immediately after that, my life changed. I started like getting all sorts of Egyptian knowledge. I don't even remember how I obtained all these things, but that Anubis shirt that I used to wear, I got that around that time. I had a statue of Anubis, of Isis, of Horus, of Sekhmet, of Maat. I had a papyrus paper written with the 42 laws of Maat on it. I was in it. You know what I mean? And then it all disappeared because my sister took it without me knowing. Crazy, huh? Crazy, right? Anywho, that happened, and I got really close with the Egyptian gods around that time, and I stuck with them. They took me out of the depression energy, and I ended up embodying a lot of um Hathor's energy, surprisingly. I got really sensual and sexual, and was like feeling myself and who I was, and then high school hit, and I was like, fuck it, I'ma just be gay. Because I lost complete interest in dating the feminine energy. I embodied a lot more of the feminine energy at that time. So I was like, I'm just gonna do this instead. I need that equal balance. So I was looking for the masculine counterpart. And even now, as I am balanced, I'm still who I am. So it doesn't matter. Like, don't let religious texts or people who are arrogant fool you. I should say ignorant and arrogant both, because it's a mix of both. But high school hit, and high school was super development. High school, my brother died of cancer around that time. There was a lot of magic attacks happening around the time. I went to the Ridge a few times. I met a friend the first time I went to the Ridge was in middle school, and that was because of the attempt that I took. My mom seen me and found me, and then was like, "Okay, we're gonna take you to the hospital because you gotta go." And I was like, "Okay." So I went there. It was interesting. I didn't really talk to anyone. I never talked to anyone when I went there. The second time I went there, though, I met someone who was like, they were a Satanist. They were pretty cool. But I learned very quick. I learned from that point not to fuck with black magic, not to do any black magic, because I had all this knowledge of it, but I never did anything. Like I was super huge into like occultism, magic, like just getting information that was hidden or just mysticism and stuff of that nature. And I found out really quick from him not to mess with it because one day in there he had a whole breakdown and started stacking chairs and furniture up on top of each other and talking in hymns. And that was interesting to witness. Energetically witness and audibly witness. I didn't physically see it, but I seen the aftermath of it. And everyone was like, yeah, something happened. And I was like, okay. Um, but I've always been told as well by my guides that that was him trying to get with me because he was gay and he wanted to room with me, and I was nonchalant about things. I didn't care. I knew he wanted something sexual, but I wasn't like that at the age. I didn't give a fuck about it. I was there to just like get better for myself. So it was definitely some sort of divine intervention that was going on to keep us separate. um but he was cool to talk to and to meet. Definitely more open about who he was with his sexuality, which gave me more strength within myself to feel more confident of who I was. So throughout high school, I was up alley with it. I used to wear a dog collar to school, and shit got weird shit quick. But we're that was in high school. We need to talk about the last thing that happened in middle school that really fucked like everyone up. In eighth grade, we had something that was called Holocaust Week. Um, we were guinea pigs for this, and we were the only group of students, the graduating class of 2018, uh, in Powell County, fuck it, in Powell County Middle School that experienced this shit. Um, and everyone shares this trauma that went there. So for a week straight, we learned about the Holocaust, and they wanted us to have a in-depth actualization of it. People were chosen to be Jews, and people were chosen to be Nazis. And the teacher did not let you draw what you wanted to be or get to choose. They chose for you, and I was marked a Jew. This did not sit well with the entirety of the class of 2018, and it's something that everyone looks at me at because the Hispanics were chosen as Nazis. I was the only colored student that was chosen to be a Jew. Everyone knew that the teacher had it out for me. No one spoke up about it. I spoke up about it. She called me crazy and sent me to the principal's office about it. I talked to the principal about it, and she said to just let it happen. Like, if she's gonna, because she wasn't gonna back down for it. She also got fired from her job after doing this. And everyone's kind of glad about it because people know how fucked up it was. But the Jews were forced to eat in the hallways. Jews would just be randomly, literally beat with brooms, smacked physically with their hands, have things stolen from them, be ripped and drugged out of class. That would happen to all the Jews. by the teachers, who were the high officers, right? Now, not every teacher, there were three teachers. No, there were only two. There were only two teachers that did not like it. And God bless those two teachers because they were the only ones that listened to anyone. Um, there was a kid, one day we were all sitting in the hallway. We had to sit facing the lockers and like hunched over. If we couldn't sit up straight, we had to hunch over and eat our food. And the two teachers that didn't like it, they would tap our butts with the broom. They wouldn't hit us with it. They would like play with us. So we understood like it's not supposed to be that serious. But one of the teachers took a kid by the ear and literally drug them down the hallway. Um, and they said, and this is what they said. This is the gross part. This is what they said before any of this went down. If you refuse to play your role, you will fail this week. In the week, the entire exam was to see if you could be abused by teachers or not, basically. That's what it felt like. That's what it really was. And that made up the biggest part of your final grade. If you there were people that refused to participate that had an F, going from A plus to an F because of this shit. So it was like your literal graduation almost depended on this shit. You know? Like it was awful. When a kid got drugged by his ears down the hallway, um, I was ripped out of class, like drug out of my chair. I was hit with the handle of a broom on the back of my head. Um, there were kids who just had their food stolen. There was a teacher that took kids' food and threw it away, and you can't go back and get seconds. Um, and the harsh reality of it all really kicked in when the end of the exercise happened. We were all in the gym, not like all of us. We removed the fucking labels we were put on. Even like the Nazis didn't. Like the kids that were like Nazis did were not okay with how everyone else was treated because it was like that's my fucking friend getting treated that way by you all, and it hit by grown adults that aren't their parents. Um, we actually had a suicide because of it as well. Um, but we don't need to talk about that. But um, at the end of it, we were all in the gym, and the main few teachers that wanted to do this looked at us and said, "Thank you all so much for participating, but we need you all to understand that this could have been stopped if you all just banded together and stood up for each other." Now, yes, that's true, but you're talking to kids who are going through puberty, as well in middle school. Um, I was beat very badly by my dad. I was bleeding, in the front office of the middle school, and the front office had like a glass panel so you could see through it. And the police got involved. So just going through all that abuse was not okay. Um, but And that was because I forgot my locker combination. I didn't like using lockers. I never really used my locker, but I put something in it and I locked it back on accident and I was like, fuck, I forgot my locker combination. And no one else can know the locker combinations. You need like keys to do it. And the janitor that had keys wasn't there. And I just got beat to a pulp because I forgot my locker combination. Um, but anyway, that happened in middle school. And when we went to high school, we were the only class of freshmen that were treated with the utmost of respect. Um, every high schooler knew because, of course, there were siblings that were in middle school that dealt with this shit. Um, the school never got in trouble. The news was involved a little bit, but they hushed it down. The teacher, the main teacher, and the teacher that assigned me to be a Jew got pink slipped that year as well. She lost her job, had to move counties, and then lost her job there as well for cheating on her fucking husband with a student. So you see how that works out for them. She had two kids, by the way. Anyway, karma's fun. Karma will hit you upside the fucking head like you never seen it. Let me tell you. But in high school, I got deep into the arts. I wasn't really, I didn't do arts on anyone, but I was very much in a succubus energy, like a Lilith energy, just sexual, not predatory, but just very in tune with who I was sexually, if you know what I mean. And middle school was rough. Uh, it really taught me that I didn't fit in. I wore dog collars, and then teachers were trying to take me on walks, which is very unprofessional. So I backed away from that. But I was very open. I was like depressed, but I wasn't like bodily harming or I wasn't suicidal. I was just not feeling it. But I didn't let my light dim. I wore rainbow clothes. Like I had rainbow gloves. I had a tail I used to wear. I was flamboyant as fuck. I'd skip down the halls. I was loud as fuck. I was happy. Like I really just didn't want to be sad anymore. And it was like I just found out who I was. I didn't have to be ashamed of it. Who cares if people are calling me faggot and the hard R and shit like that? Who gives a fuck? That's their problem, not mine. I've been like, even in middle school, I was called the hard R. And every time it happened, kids would get in trouble. So it's like, the fuck are you doing? You're gonna get in trouble, and I'm just not gonna do anything. Like, oh, come on. But I was always told that no one liked me. I've always been an outcast. I never had a friend group. I was always floating around. I had associates. I never really had friends growing up, which is why everyone's a friend now because the importance of just treating people like they're a friend when you see them is needed. You know, you really have to go through some things to understand it, you know. Um, but high school, I got into music. I downloaded FL Studio, pirated FL Studio. Let's be transparent here. I didn't have money. I did have money, but it was like government adoption money, and I used it to get a computer to use for music. And I've been doing music for like 7 years. Oh my God. 8 years. 7 to 8 years. Holy shit. Oh my gosh, my mom's been dead for so long. Sorry. I just had a realization. I just had an actualization there, actually. Holy shit. I was like, wait a minute. Because I made a song for my mom um, while she was passing away, and that was 5 years ago. Damn, time goes by fast, baby, let me tell you. No, but yeah. Um, I don't mention it, but through elementary school up till high school, I was going through abuse, being beaten by my dad. I was threatened to be beat by my sister's both of my sister's husband, as well as one of my sister's son that threatened to beat me. So that was interesting. Um, but yeah, it's just being threatened to get hit, just being who I am. My family doesn't, well, I shouldn't say, I'm gonna say it that way, it doesn't matter. It doesn't, the specifics don't matter, but they were not fond of me being gay, um, let alone being open about it. My dad told me to be careful because he knew I was gonna be made fun of. My mom just wished that I wasn't, and my sisters are just complete asswipes. Um, I didn't know this, but I have two other nieces. And they're both lesbian. I didn't hear about them because they've been exiled from the family. But they're living wonderful, beautiful lives. Um, So that's what I know that I'm on my path to doing. And I've met with so much backlash because I've been the one to speak so much truth about who they are. And they don't want me living that luxurious life, especially because my sister tried to destiny swap me with my cousin. He's technically my nephew, but we called ourselves cousins to make ourselves closer. You see what they do with that? It's cute. But yeah, that didn't destiny swap didn't work, obviously. But not trying to be arrogant here, even though it could come off as I'm just being honest and truthful with it, you know. But in high school, I was doing that. Um, and I remember I met one person. He was a really good friend. His name is Dylan. And at the end of high school year, I told Dylan, I was like, dude, I can't be friends with you because I your friends are assholes to me, and like I can't like you have chosen them over me, and that's cool and all, but like I'm out because we he was like the only friend I had. He'd come over every weekend, and I'd go over every weekend. You know what I mean? Um, one day when I was actually running from home, so I wouldn't get beat, I popped up at his place and chilled there for a minute. So it was interesting. We were really good friends. Um, but yeah, I told him that, and that hurt his feelings. Obviously, it makes sense. But we just split paths. It was fine. Um, and I was just mainly focused on my music anyway. I reconnected with the band friend. His name is Logan. Give me a second. Hold on. Okay, so I reconnected with my band friend. His name is Logan. And we used to play Borderlands all the time. Dude, when we hung out, that he was like my dude friend. Like we would wrestle in his basement. We'd fucking like airsoft. Oh my god, dude, we had so much fun. We had a friend named Tanner. He was an arachnophobe, and since he lived in the basement, we have like a bunch of wolf spiders where I grew up at. And we took a wolf spider and put it in a cup. Started putting water in it. And we did not know these fuckers could float. And Tanner's like, guys, it's not sinking. And the spider like hunched up. He fucking hits the cup, and that spider and that water fly. And he's like, I'm gonna go home. I don't know where that went. And he literally calls his dad. He goes home. And it was funny. He's really bad arachnophobe. We shouldn't have done that, but he wanted to as well. He's just a fucking crazy kid. But um yeah, in high school I connected back with Logan and Tanner. Um and we played Borderlands and we played Call of Duty and Halo. We did airsoft shit all the time. Um, it was fun. And that's kind of just how I spent my high school year is just kind of like grounding myself with people and just getting into music. I spent a lot of time working on music though. Like I took I had a laptop and I would take it to school and I would work on music during classes. I didn't give a fuck about what I was learning because it wasn't helping me. I would focus on my music. And I'm on DJing and shit. Like it's always been a passion of mine. I'm doing it to this day still, so I'm happy that I get to. But after high school happened, shit started getting weird. Um, in 2000, I think 19 is when my mom passed away, and I swear to God, I swear to it, my sister is responsible for her death. It was too unnatural. The events that conspired, which I'm not going to go into detail about, lead really to her being behind her death, as well as my dad's death. And I'm going to stand by that until I am presented with any evidence from my guides that say it's not true. And I have not received anything like that yet, which is unfortunate. But when my mom passed away, it hit because I was still healing from being abused forever from my dad, and I I just liked my mom more. We spent a lot of time together. She was homebound. She couldn't drive, oxygen 24/7. She had one friend, and her friend also just couldn't drive that much. Just elderly ladies. So I always hung around my mom a lot. Um, I even introduced my mom to my music friends. It was kind of cute. I had online friends that would come down and visit, and they like my mom loved them to death. Um, I remember I it was like an online friend I had. His name was Noah. At the he lived. I'm not gonna say where he lived. Jesus Christ. But he came down to visit, and my mom loved him. I had BB guns, and me and my mom would shoot BB guns, and she outshot me. And funny thing is, Logan went to the army, and my mom outshot him, and he was first. He was leader of his platoon because he was a sharpshooter. He was the best sharpshooter in his platoon. He had badges for it and everything, and my mom outshot him on a BB gun when he came back from the army, which is really fucking funny. And he still doesn't want to believe it to this day. I don't talk to him anymore. We split our separate ways. But I would always bring it up, and he's like, that didn't happen. But his little brother was there, and he was like, his little brother. I love Landon so much. Um, Landon is autistic, and when he was in the army, I would go over all the time to hang out with Landon because I made a promise to Logan and to Landon that he wouldn't be by himself because Landon, that was his brother, that was his duo. You know what I mean? And Tanner was going to the Air Force, and he'd hang out with me and Tanner. And Tanner was going to the Air Force, and Landon called me one day and was like, "Hey, you're not gonna leave too, are you?" And I was like, "No, man, I'm here." So I stuck with him, and we bonded. We became friends. Um, because it just, like I understand the feeling of loneliness and the fear of like losing a loved one. So I stuck with them, and it wasn't even like I was forced to. I genuinely loved hanging out with Landon. We had the same interest in shit. We got really into Apex Legends, and we fucking every weekend we'd go down there and we'd play that game nonstop. We had two games we played it, only two games. It was Monster Hunter World and Apex Legends, and we would play those. And then Tanner was stationed in Japan in the Air Force. He was security. And then we would play Monster Hunter and Apex together. So we had this whole thing. We got into Destiny as well. Destiny was kind of fun too, but you know, going back a little bit more on track about the life story. Um, in 2021, 2020, yeah, 2021. Um, my sister bought the house from my dad, and I wasn't told about it, and I had a week to leave. Live? Jesus Christ, no. Week to live. Leave. I guess I had a week to live. What the fuck? I had a week to leave. Jesus. But I had met someone online randomly. We became really close friends, and I moved in with them. Um, and I was smoking a lot of weed at the time. That's just about it. But then we moved because we had a roommate that was on meth that was stealing our objects, and I was like, we gotta get rid of him. So we got rid of him. We moved somewhere else. We stayed there for a while, and then unbeknownst to me, this is when I was on drugs bad. I was doing X. Um, I tried Molly, and it didn't do anything to me because my mom's drug addiction was still kind of running through me. I'm a drug baby. My mom was literally actively on meth when I was born. And when I did Molly, I was like, I don't want to do anything like this ever again. Like I didn't feel anything, and they were looking at me like, I don't think you need to do it then. And it hit something inside me, and I was like, I don't need to be doing this. I'm on the wrong path. I'm not doing something. But I still did shrooms. I did acid. I did shrooms for like therapeutic things, but I did acid for fun. And I did acid one day, and I looked in the mirror, and I had a whole ego death. But before I had an ego death, I called my friend uh My friend's little brother, Noah's little brother. He wasn't like little. I say little brother, I mean younger. He wasn't like underage. He's just younger, you know. And I was like, I told him like, hey, don't look in the mirror when you're doing drugs. It's not fun. And I was talking to him, and I started feeling like I was being ripped from my body. And I was like, I'll call you back later. So I did, and I immediately blacked out. The second I hung up on the phone, I blacked out, and I was surrounded by the council again. And they were like, look, you're fucking up. You got a choice to make right now. Are you happy with how you're living right now? And I was like, no. And they said, are you gonna fix it? I said, yeah. I'll do my best. What do I got to do? They said, sit tight because shit's gonna get weird. Shit, in fact, did get weird. I started DJing for the first time. I got my first DJ gig there. Um, and that was fun. So the divine basically put my life, gave me the pieces, right? And I moved to hold on, I should back up. I was on Twitter and I was talking about ecstasy because I was taking a lot of it at the time still. And then Dylan, the high school friend, hits me up. I didn't. He followed me on Twitter. He liked my music, and we collabed a few times on and off, you know. And he asked me about it. And we said sure, so we did that, and then we did shrooms together. And then we met the symphony, who was one of my friends. She became trans, um, and came over, and we all started hanging out and we all did shrooms and watched fucking Tim and Eric all night. It was weird. Just bonding things, you know what I mean? And then I moved in with them. But before I moved in with them, I had like a week to leave again. And um I got hexed for the first time. I was damned to go to hell. And the hex did work. I don't think the hex was done on purpose, but the person's moon sign was a Scorpio, so does it fucking matter if they meant to or not? Let's keep it real. Scorpios out there now. You know, trust me, y'all know. And if you don't know, you'll find out, trust me. Regardless, I moved in with them. We did acid, um, and something snapped. Like it was, like I had a whole awakening. I seen they did not have an actual physical knife there, but I was seeing a knife in their hand. And what I've come to terms with that is the backstabbing symbol. That is them trying to sacrifice me. That is a cult classic, if you will, that shows that they have been doing cult activities. Especially if they hold a knife in their hand, that means they've done the palm and the shake, the brotherhood. You know what I mean? They do that shit. So if you ever see that or get that feeling from someone, just know that's what they're doing. Okay. But I clocked them. I cloaked them immediately, and I was like, I don't want to be here. And I blacked out on acid. I like they all went away because I did some crazy shit. We're not going to go into detail what I did, but I got them away from me because I did not feel safe. Um, it didn't hurt anyone, but I I blacked out, and I remember vividly being on the bed. And I was blacked out. I would wake up from the blackout and I would see, like, you know, I'd only see the normal room, but it was the energy. And I was like, I don't like this. And I'd snap my fingers and I'd fall back down and I'd pop back up again and I'd go, no, wrong energy. And I got to a point where I was just timeline skipping. I was flipping through my book basically of life. And I was like, I don't, not this one, not this one, not this one. I don't want to be here. This is not here, not this, not this, not this. I don't want any of these. Fuck all that. I don't want it. I want this. And I was like, boom, I'm there. I'll get it. I went to sleep, woke up, everything was good. They were going to kick me out, and then I had another week to leave, and then something changed because I timeline shifted. So obviously, something different was happening, and I was in full acceptance. I was like, I don't know where the fuck I'm going to go, but I know I'm going to be safe because I seen some crazy. I flipped through my life book. I knew what was going on, you know, consciously. And around this time, I'd always tell people I could see my life like the back of my hand. It was a script that I already read because it was multiple times. I've read the script of my life too many times. It's just aggravating to express it and then almost be tested on it, you know? But I mean, that's just human nature. Regardless, um, after like the week, they called me up and they were like, "We actually don't want to kick you out. I think it's better if we just try to bond and heal this." And I was like, "Okay, cool. I got you." So we did. We hung out. Everything was good. I played D&D with them a lot. It was really fun and nice. And then uh, Dylan just flipped a switch. And it feels like it was part of a plan, obviously, because it was just those two talking a lot more than me. And just, you can't play, I play stupid a lot, but you can't slip anything past my peripheral. I'm like an eagle when it comes to shit. I might play stupid and like a puppy, but like, that's what a Libra does, baby. I think you're the ignorant one. I think you're the one that's a little gullible and stupid. Look at the ceiling. Anywho, Dylan started being really rude and cutting me off from conversations, and I expressed to them, "Hey, be a better friend to me. Let me talk. Let me express how I feel because you keep doing this and it's getting on my nerves." Long story short, we got in an argument, and he said, "I don't know how to talk to you," and I said, "Well, here's how you talk to me. You don't." And I got up and left. And then I had a month to leave after that to get my stuff settled out. And that's when I met my last people in my last situation. Um, and I had a prophetic dream about them popping up and everything. I literally had a dream of a house fire, and it was between an ex I had at the time and the main person who was doing black magic on me. So I had like a whole dream about these people. I knew who they were from the get-go. It wasn't a surprise. I think they thought it was a surprise because they really liked to play in my face because I didn't think I knew what was going on, but I literally had prophetic dreams of this bitch picking me up in a Tesla, and she drove the same exact Tesla that was in my dream, and save quote unquote from saving me from the house fire that was in the exact apartment that I moved into. Right? Whatever. It's interesting. Show me where I'm going. But I did that. I opened my Akashic records and I seen the exact apartment that I was moving into. And there were two scenes that I seen. The first one that already passed. We're not talking about the second one because the second one is about to. I'm leaving it like that, and that's it. But the first one, I was pulling out a snack from this white cupboard, and it was also I was starved for the month. I was starved while being in that basement. They were taking my commodities that my dad was bringing me. They stole a bunch of shit from me. They stole medical records. They stole adoption papers and shit. It didn't have my correct information on it because my adoption papers didn't have my birth date, only my adoption date. So have fun with that. But they stole all the information. It's whatever. Like I know how protected I am. It doesn't even matter. Like the fact that they even have the information doesn't even bother me because I know that they have the information and just like I, I've been in your energy before. So if you're gonna play dumb games, you're gonna have to just face my spirit when you summon it. So that have fun with that. But when I moved into the other place, y'all know how that story went. I got deep in the tarot. It's when I started the channel. But I got wrapped up in like a love circle, a love square, I should say, really. And I backed out of it, and everyone got jealous because I backed out of it because I was the one giving the actual love in the relationship. And I like unfriended all of them because they didn't like that I got paid a lot to DJ. So I separated myself from them. I was like, just fuck off if you're gonna be weird. Like, leave me alone, let me do my career. And while there, I was under a lot of abuse and magic, like black magic every night. You can even go back and see I was very stressed out and pissed off and frustrated, but I just had to go through it. It's whatever. But At that around that time, I got into a lot of stuff. I went to mirror realms. I summoned angels. I summoned demons. I did all sorts of shit. I did a hot foot spell. That was fun. I had full permission to do it too. I did a hot foot spell to get them to leave me alone. That shit worked. I had to listen to them scream for 3 hours because they wouldn't fucking leave the apartment. They didn't even live there, but they didn't want to leave. So they just sat there and screamed for 3 hours while being hot-footed and attacked by a hellhound. I mean, if you're gonna be that stupid, then go for it. You know, it's your fault, no one else's. But yeah, it was a growth period of just learning who I was and stepping more into my power. When I had the internet turned off, I had food supplies stripped from me again. There's a cycle of me being starved that people like to put me through, but I don't think anyone understands that starving yourself from food and water only leaves room for spirit to fill you up. So, I mean, look at the Tibetan monks and shit. They don't need anything that we have. They just survive with spirit and source. That's all they need. It's true. That's all you need. But I did a lot of stuff there. I did a lot of rituals with Anubis. That's when I became really, really in tap with Anubis. That's when I started doing a lot of work with him. That's when I started weighing a lot of people's hearts. As well as it was more of me consciously doing it instead of unconsciously doing it. I am one of the few, there's like a handful of the heart weighers on this earth who are assigned by either Anubis or Mayat. Mayat weighs the feather, and Anubis weighs the heart. I was chosen from Anubis, so I weigh the heart because I've worked so much with my heart space. I've been authentic with who I am. So of course I'm gonna be the one to work with the heart chakras as well. Um, but I did that a lot. I got in touch with Sekhmet and learned Sekhem healing. I went through the cleansing of a fire ritual. I was anointed. I've gone through so many ceremonies with Anubis and Sekhmet, done by myself and others. I'm qualified for everything I do, you know. Um, but now I'm here. That's basically the life story. Um, the I don't know. I just felt like retelling the life story in a bit more detail and a bit more grounded area and a bit more grounded mind because I really want people to know that despite what you go through, you can pop up a lot better. I mean, I don't have any family support. After my dad died, like they I did um a rite of death ceremony for my dad to help him pass on easier. Um, and after I did that, my sister's husband came back to the room screaming at me that I had to leave. So-called Christians, right? That's what they were. But after I did that death rite ceremony, I was in the movie theater watching Ghostbusters, the new Ghostbusters, and I just heard seconds before I got the phone call, "Don't worry, you'll be fine." And I was like, "What do you mean?" And I looked at my phone and I had a phone call and I left and it was the news that my dad passed away. Um, it it was interesting. It was weird. Um, but it very much showed me the power of who I am and what I'm supposed to be doing here and how I help people. But again, as well as when you have your experiences, it's good to talk boldly about what you know. And that's something else I want to help people with, especially with this throat chakra issues, because it's like I speak on what I know because I've seen things that other people just don't see. And everyone says that and everyone does those things, but there's a difference between just telling it to people and actually living it and giving advice from that perspective. Which is why, like, it's not even just me, it's just really anyone in the spiritual community. If they're like not telling you to start your own platform and to speak your own truth, they don't really give a fuck because the divine doesn't put you through experiences to go into people's chats and to like cry out for help. The only help you're going to receive is them telling you to do that yourself, you know? And that's not a bad thing, but it's like you if you have all this wisdom, if you have all these things that you know, then why are you not doing something with it? And it's not to say don't share your story, always share your story, but understand that everyone has like a different motive. Like I read souls more than anything. I don't pay attention to flesh. I've always paid attention to souls. That's how it's always been. And I will see where people are coming from text. And it's because I'm so transparent that I'm open with myself. And you can pull the excuse of not everyone's the same, but we are all the same because we all think the same. And we can all think, oh, if I do this, then blah, 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 then someone else is going to be that way. But to further that from an assumption is to actually know that person. That's why I always say I never argue with anyone. I always just tell you what I know. That's all I can do. I'm not here to argue with anyone. So if you ever think I'm trying to argue with you, that's a you problem because you want to argue deep down inside and you don't want to really help anyone or be benefit to anyone. You want to be snobby and snooty. So you can do that, but go somewhere else because you're at the wrong person. You're at the person that will weigh your heart and judge you in a fucking millisecond, you know. But really, don't be afraid to share your story. Speak up. Do what you need to do. Um, be respectful about it, though. That's the biggest thing. The biggest lesson I've ever learned is really just respect. And respect has less to do with other people. It's with yourself. It's a two-way street, but you're also walking down that street. So if you're not respecting yourself, how the fuck can you respect someone else? You know? I've just it's interesting. I'll go into more depth about other things on a different day, but for now, because it's like almost a 2 hour fucking video about my life, Jesus. But yeah, I'll leave this here. This is the story of my life. If you've been curious or wanted to know, because simply I don't look what I've gone through. I don't look like it. I don't sound like it. I don't think like it, but it's what I've gone through. I've seen the other side 3 times. I've popped back into this vessel 3 times. I've been there, done it. You know, I shit. I've astral traveled. I've been picked up by UFOs as a child. I've been in this shit longer than you think. When I was a child, I used to have dreams of the devil eating me. That's how bad it was. Trying to bind me to some sort of fear. And it was funny because it was this dream I used to have of us playing red light, green light. And I would move when the red light would happen because, oh, you're not supposed to move right now. You need to stop. And I would get consumed by Satan or Saturn because I chose not to stop. And all Saturn is going to do is give you what man is going to make. And the same thing that man makes will be destroyed within time. So, really, it is just getting down to the deep parts of who you are and understanding that your story always will matter. And use this as like a time to share your story as well. Like, always, in this comment in another video, however. But regardless, thank you all for being here and listening to this life story. I hope it did more for your soul, for your heart than it did for your feelings. I really hope that you get a growth or get a release or get a comfortability or just feel safe hearing another person's story and its similarities, you know? Um, but yeah, I love you all so much to the moon and back tenfold and forever. You all know the drill. Everything's in the description. But thank you all so much for the likes, comments, shares, subscribes, donations, whether they are energetic or financial. I appreciate them both fully and wholly. But I love you all so much to the moon and back tenfold and forever. And see you later.